So now that the reactive controller for collision avoidance works very nicely, we can think about how to combine behaviors. In this case, we might have the robot follow the light and avoid collisions at the same time. In order to do that, let's see whether we can print the light sensors. And I have them in an array of, that is called L. So we can print the left one, which was the 7th, and the right one, which was the 0th one, and see what happens. Alright, so we see they are saturated, and now as it gets darker, the left one is already darker than the right one. And now as the robot turns, we see the right one is darker than the left one, because the left one is closer to the light. So how do you have to think about this? We actually would want to add the right one to the right wheel, and that will make the right wheel turn faster than the left one and make the robot turn. Let's try this. What did we say? We add the right one to the right wheel. So the right one is L0, and for symmetry we do the same on the other side. And now we have to again normalize the sensor. Let's do the same thing we did with the distance sensor and turn it into a NumPy array. And now let's normalize it, and maybe here we want to divide it by 5000 and then multiply it with 1 rad per second to get a little better scaling. Alright, let's try what happens. I need to move this, of course, underneath the code where I get the sensor value. Let's try this again. Now we have 0, 0 as we expect. The robot already started turning, and now it starts to turn slightly toward the left sensor. The problem is we are still having the sensors saturated, and now if you were to play with this kind of robot on your desk, you might play with it all day long, and then it becomes dark, and we can simulate this here. So the sun finally goes away, and we see that our sensor values are saturating much later, and the behavior is much more as we would expect it. Now we might look at the saturation values again and say, well, maybe the light is much too bright here. Let's set this to 0.9 and see what happens. Now I still have saturation. You see here there's a 0 on the right sensor. Let's bring this down a little bit and move the robot. And it's still not enough. Let's make it even darker. And now you see the right light sensor is not saturating anymore, and we might get a much stronger reading. Another thing we probably should do is move the light source a little further down, because the light sensors are actually mounted right in front of the robot. So it might work much better if we bring the light source down so the robot can see it from wherever it is. And now you see the behavior. Well, this didn't work. I have to press it. And now we see the robot is turning very strongly toward the light.